Welcome to Insight with Moonshadow. I am Moonshadow, an integrative holistic therapist, intuitive shaman, interfaith minister, and chief evangelist with over 30 years of experience in the healing field within the U.S. as well as internationally. And my intention here with Insight with Moonshadow is to help you connect to your inner self and the world around you. Now, today, it's no different than a lot of the really deep introspective topics that I have brought in previously. This is not going to be any different. Now, all of us have had some type of history. Even if you're born today or in the last 2 weeks, you still have some form of history, some kind of karmic history. But that may be within your belief system, that may not be within your belief system. But since energy cannot be created or destroyed, your soul is eternal. At least from my view and many other people that share in that philosophy and mindset. Now, looking at having history, unless you were born in a petri dish, you're going to have all kinds of things happen. You're going to have experiences, good, bad, and ugly. You're going to have, friendships. You're going to have relationships. You're going to have romantic relationships. You're going to have partnerships. You're going to have so many different things that happen to you. Business, even business dealings. And not always do those interactions go well. A lot of times, a good chance of the time, it can go poorly or it can go sour. Again, because we have human nature and expectations and ego and all these other dynamics that kick in that allow you to be vulnerable, allow you to be flawed, allow you to be prideful, and all these other dynamics and concepts in the human experience, right? So now, on the spiritual end, I have found with working with a lot of different types of people that if you are unable to let go of the past, let go of the hurts, let go of things that just didn't work out, not only are you giving power to the past, but you're also defeating or draining yourself of your own existence. Because if you really think about it, going back, say, even 6 months ago, I was a different person. I'm enhanced, a little different. Experience continues and brings you further along, brings you to other realms of possibility. So if you think about this, and, honestly, even being incredibly sacredly, spiritually responsible, that does not guarantee that you're going to be able to forget or forgive people or forgive situations in the past. So it takes an inner strength. It takes a strong inner strength for you to be able to do so. And it's not always easy. A lot of what is brought about and a lot of what I challenge all of you on tends to be not really easy stuff. It's not sugar-coated stuff. It's not stuff that just anyone that's kind of, superficial would be like, oh yeah, whatever. Very few people that I've spoken to or have worked with were ever whatever. Even if they said whatever, it's a totally different situation when it happened to them. So how unique is that? Where people will say whatever when it has something to do with something else or someone else's experience. But when it happens to us, that's a whole different thing, isn't it? So one of the big reasons why this topic is brought about today, there have been quite a few disappointments that have happened. And even trying to be as spiritually enlightened as you can be and responsible, there's times that you just, you exist in that area of feeling what's going on. And when you do that, you react. And sometimes our reactions aren't the greatest reactions. So this is just bringing back to mindfulness, as I preach and I speak about quite often, about mindfulness. Let's just say a hypothetical situation. You have someone that was in a relationship for quite a long time, and it goes south. Now, there's damage on both ends. There's damage. The person that caused it, whether it be intentionally or unintentionally, as well as there's hurt involved. But what do you do after the hurt's done? What do you do from that point? How do you cope with the situation? How do you cope with that void? Whether it be betrayal. And even I myself, recently, in searching for places to live stream, I have felt disappointed and mistreated. So yet another reason why this topic is very current, because this is something that I had to employ myself recently. So now, how do you forgive? What control you have of the past? That's just one. Okay, let's go with the first point here. Do you have any control of what happened 6 months ago, 6 years ago, 6 lifetimes ago? Can you change it? If you really, really think about it, what's done is done. You can't unring that bell. You can't unsay what was said. And this is all the more reason why mindfulness is really important. It's all the more reason why being responsible, physically, spiritually, mentally, makes a big, huge difference. Because it can release you from getting involved in more situations that can cause a disconnect or a disruption. Now, if you think about that, taking the experience and learning from it, that's a really important part. Owning what is yours and disowning what is not. That's another issue. So say, for example, and I've known quite a few people that have had this type of experience, that they had a very difficult childhood. Their parents did the best they could with what they had, but they did a kind of piss poor job at preparing their child or children for adulthood and preparing them for the world. Now, seeing that, this is all the more all the more reason that you have to be responsible for how you raise your children and how you interact with the world. Because as you know, whatever goes online, it doesn't completely go away, right? So you have to be mindful of what you do and what you say. And I'm not saying being paranoid, because it's not about being paranoid. If something is not characteristically you, whether or not it's behind the computer or whether it's behind a Halloween mask or a life mask, because there are people that wear life masks too that pretend to be someone that they're not. If it's uncharacteristically you, then why act that way? And that's a big thing to swallow, right? You know, that's a big chunk to swallow, really, if you think about it. So I can honestly say, me personally, that I'm the same way, online or offline. Same person, it doesn't matter. On the phone, in front of you, I may be a little more unruly. Not gonna lie. I am a coyote child by nature. But the point is, accountability. I'm accountable for what I say and do. And if I do or say something that was inappropriate or wrong or hurtful, even if it was an unintentional type thing, I'm going to do a rethink on it. So ultimately, owning up to what's going on, what's happening. Was it you? Did you cause it? What do you know, owning up to what your part of the interaction was. So that's a big important part. So now, as far as like letting go of the past and forgiving, it is not an easy task. Forgiving someone that ripped you open, metaphorically, psychically, emotionally. It is not easy to look at the experience and say, you know what? I forgive you. But there's a power in forgiveness. There's a strength in forgiveness. When you can let go of the past, or not the lesson of the past, but when you can let go of the past as the present circumstance, that's when you can really start moving towards serious healing. That's when you can move towards being an unlimited being as opposed to being limited. Because ultimately, if you really, really think about it, it's an experience. And there are times, as you know, in a former show, the topic was sacred contracts. There are contracts that we sign. So for all you know, prior to coming into this incarnation, into this lifetime, you may have signed on to certain good and not so good situations and interactions. Unfortunately, we don't like to have to think about that. And even doing all this work, I don't want to deal with it either. But to make your life as good as it can be, there's a strong need to be accountable and to let go of what doesn't serve you anymore. There are jobs that you could have had, you could have been fired, or you could have been laid off. Whatever it is. And it's not just, all of this attaches to you physically, mentally, and emotionally. All of it does. I've had business situations that didn't pan out. Again, take ownership for what you do. What was me and what was mine? What was my take on this? What did I contribute to the situation? Did I contribute to a negative aspect of the situation? Did I try to cope with it in a good way? And this is all about you being honest with yourself. No one else is judging you when you're looking in the mirror. It's really up to you. But now, through the power of actually forgiving, and you notice I'm not saying forgetting, through the power of actual forgiveness, to say, that was yesterday. I may not trust you like I trusted you before. It's different. You may be at an arm's length from situations or people. You may not deal with a certain business anymore. Your business circumstances may change. How you do things may be different, but there's always a lesson, whether it's a hard lesson or an easy lesson. Now, I myself, I'd prefer learning from other people's mistakes because, damn, let's face it, it is so much easier learning from other people's mistakes. So this is why I like to have both eyes open. And I'm fortunate in working with the people I work with. There are so many different types of situations that I can help them with that it brings an indirect lesson for me. Like, wow, okay, Sally was in a situation. This is the situation she was in. These are the precursors that happened prior to her getting to the situation. Be familiar and realize, whoa, wait a minute. This kind of feels like Sally's situation. I got to watch out for that. And just be mindful. Just think ahead. Put yourself in that position. Now, granted, being an empath there's an added benefit. And I've had people say that you get an extra advantage to be able to intuitively or psychically or pick up energy. And it's a gift and it's a curse, but there are a lot more people that can tie into that gut instinct of knowing when something is or is not kosher, is or is not right. But now, there's a question for you. Is the past still serving you? Now, I'm not going to answer that question for you. This is for you to answer yourself. With yourself, by yourself, to yourself. Because ultimately, what I say or anyone else says, it doesn't really make a difference or matter. It's really how you perceive something in a lot of ways. So is the past serving you anymore? Is holding on to the situation or holding on to the hurt serving you? Is holding on to a dynamic still serving you? So these are all questions that you need to ask yourself in moving forward from that past stance. Also, too, say, for example, that you were the recipient of said betrayal or hurt. And believe me, you may have to forgive yourself for being the one that was the person that did the hurt. That's also possible too. People that initiated hurt aren't necessarily devoid of blame, or I'm not going to say blame, let's just say accountability or responsibility. So if you think about that and you look at, okay, is this serving me anymore? Does this experience that happened 10 minutes ago, 10 months ago, 10 lifetimes ago, whichever it may be, is it still serving me? And is it propelling me forward, or is it holding me back? I can say from my experience, it tends to hold you back a bit because it's a tether. It's a unfortunate, potentially disruptive or dysfunctional tether that's holding you and keeping you trapped to a person, to a situation, to a need to want to be right. And ultimately, there are casualties on both ends from the past and from your interactions and from your experiences to now. There are casualties on both ends, whether they know it now or they pay for it later. So this is just another reason for being mindful. It's just another reason for really thinking ahead and thinking, okay, who am I expressing? Am I expressing my true self, or am I expressing someone that other people need or want me to be? So truth and being genuine and authentic within yourself, and being able to do the work and sort out what's serving you now and what isn't serving you anymore is really, really key and paramount here. So overall, looking at it from, and again, people think, oh, forgive, like no different than people saying the word love. A lot of people say the word love very easily, and I don't know if they really know the full concept or the full impact of the word love. Now, forgiveness has the same impact. I read a story going back quite a while ago where parents had lost their child to murder. And the mother of the child actually went to the prison and forgave the murderer. Now, granted, I've never had that kind of thing happen to me. I can't say that I experienced that, at least not in this lifetime, but I can say this. The amount of strength that mother had to face to be able to look into the eyes of someone that killed her baby and to say, I forgive you, that's massive. So we can really learn a lot from this person. For her to say, I forgive you. You took away one of my loved ones, and I forgive you. Now, that being said, that's something that's huge. That's really, really, that's massive. That's a massive undertaking. Now, for that person to be able to really connect with that forgiveness and do that. So now, is it possible for you to be able to do that? I know a few people, a handful of people that I could mention right now that they haven't let go of the past. And I also had that issue and problem as well. Not letting go of past hurt. Not letting go of past betrayal. Taking ownership of what I've done and what I haven't done. What I could have done better. But it's a big undertaking, and it takes a lot of strength for you to be able to do that and take ownership of what the situation is, and to let go of the past with that and be able to move into the present. Because ultimately, if you're still stuck in the past, the future has got to be no different. It's going to be no different. It's going to continue. The pattern will not be changing. But it's really up to you to change that pattern. Now, there's even a technique, and I can share that technique now, that say, for example, that you had a disruption, an ending, and it's hard to let go. And it's not feasible or possible for you to gain closure. Because ultimately, that's also why we hold on to the past, is because it's lacking closure. But this is a technique that you can utilize to get yourself out of the situation and to move into the present. You can stop and sit someplace nice and quiet and still. You can take a few good deep breaths, and you can visualize that person sitting across from you. Focus on having a conversation with that person, because you are at this point, at this time, you're talking to their higher self. You're talking to a version, an energetic version of them. And talk to them. Tell them how you feel. Get it out. Because in holding on to this and to holding it in, it's just going to, what I say, and I coined this a long, long time ago, it's going to keep you emotionally constipated. And yes, I did say constipation. You could be emotionally constipated by not letting go of things, and you can be bottled up, caught up, torn up, and never, ever let anybody know. So now that being the case, you're sitting there across, and in your mind's eye, you're seeing that person across from you. And you're talking to them, and you're sorting out what's going on. And they may respond as well, because again, you're speaking to their energetic self, and you may gain a new perspective on the situation and what's happened. Another way is writing a letter and visualize that person. And you can light the letter up in a flame-resistant bowl so they can get it, so you can gain closure. Not always can you sit in front of a person face to face and say, look, you hurt me, or I'm sorry I hurt you. I apologize, or I want to own up to what I've done, or why, just gain that kind of closure, gain that understanding, because there's some things you can't really change. Again, you can't unring that bell. You can't unsay that word. This is why being mindful and thoughtful, especially in anger, especially in frustration, because this is going to release any potential possibility of worse incursions down the road. So now thinking about that, looking at that from that perspective, wouldn't it be nice to have that closure, whether it be face-to-face in person or utilizing the higher self technique? Wouldn't it be nicer? Wouldn't it be better to be able to let go and to free that part of you that's holding you back from being a better unlimited self? All this matters. We make millions and millions of involuntary thoughts and decisions every day without even thinking about it, because they happen so fast. But with something like this, with forgiveness, with the power of forgiveness, it's a seriously mindful thing. It's a serious thing that you need to really look at so you can really heal and get yourself past the old, past the hurt, past the trauma, past the dysfunction of whatever it may be, and move forward. Because you can't move forward if you're chained to the past. And with that being said, in this show, on this recording, on this broadcast, there are people that I've had to forgive. And it's taken a long time. So seeing that this is going to be out in cyberspace, I'm putting my money where my mouth is. And I'm going to say, you may have not known what you did, and you know who you are. But I forgive you. Now that's not an easy thing to do. Because I had a couple of situations that needed closure in my life. And this is all the more reason why everything that I share with all of you, I practice what I preach. I'm doing the same. No perfection here. I'm just as flawed as all of you. But understand that there are times that people do things unintentionally because they didn't know any better. Not everyone was malicious. Not everything was intentional. So whether it be a business decision, whether it be an emotional decision, whether it been someone that you were involved with romantically, whether it was a sibling, whether it was family, whether it was blood, whether it was someone you met online, doesn't matter. Through looking into it and taking the good or the lesson out of the situation, you will be able to find yourself in a better place. You'll be able to find yourself in a better situation to move forward. Now, Dawn Marie is saying we all make mistakes in life, and we also do things that can be taken wrong. Forgiveness is a good practice in everyday life. And I will also tell you this, and thank you so much, Dawn Marie, for saying that. Because of this, let's just say, if you are like a soda bottle and a past hurt or a dysfunction or a past interaction or a past experience is not taken care of, it's like shaking that puppy. And you go ahead and you shake that water bottle. Yeah, pretty much, right? Unless they were paying me for sponsorship, I wouldn't mention product placement. But you know what? That's nice. I'm thinking with Dawn Marie in mind, product placement. So, but yes, with certain products, you mix them up in a soda bottle, and yes, you could have a pretty massive explosion. But this is ultimately the thing. Now, let's just say, and I've worked with a ton of people that did this. They tried their best to be physically well. They tried their best to get out of major health issues. And one of the big cataclysmic things that was holding them back, even though they're eating well, even though they were exercising like crazy, even though they were doing everything physically to get better, emotionally, they were stuck. It was like running in quicksand. Can't do it. And until many months of working, and some even years, they had to change that part, the emotional aspect. They were bottling that up. They were tethering themselves to that hurt for so long. That's the one thing that was stopping them from excelling, from losing the weight, from feeling better about themselves, from getting healthier, from making more money. You know, a lot of things. Now, Anna's saying the hardest thing I've had to forgive wasn't against me. It was something that someone did to one of my kids. Yeah. And that's hard. Now you're talking about a completely different dynamic. Because I also am very protective of people I care about. And this is not just blood. I'm talking about extended family as well. So if you think about this, it will hurt. You know, I don't have any children presently, but I've had a lot of soul children I've brought, you know, under my wing, so to speak, and loved them and saw them grow up, helped them becoming adults even. But it's very hard to forgive someone that goes and hurts a loved one as well. So you don't necessarily have to be the one that's hurt or the one that did the hurting. You could be an innocent bystander just watching it happen and being like, wow. Even then you have to forgive too. But you have to forgive from a third person point of view, which adds another level of complication. But it's doable. And that, and Anna's saying that she knows I love like a dad. And it's true. There are children, and for the sake of not getting to the point where I can't function, there are a couple of kids that I no longer have any connection with that I miss to pieces. And I'm not their blood father. But they actually had said to their mother, why couldn't he be our father instead? That's a hard pill to swallow, to be honest with you. So, but love can be a really tough experience, right? Thanks, guys. So, forgiveness is really, really important. It's really, really, paramount in you being the best person you can be. In the same aspect, I can say this. The person that's standing in front of you right now or sitting in front of you talking about this wouldn't be here if it wasn't for all the experiences I've had. If my life is all good, all perfect, all the time, I wouldn't be able to share to you. So there's an upside to the dark side of the force. You'll learn. And as you learn, you can progress in that learning as well. And I agree. Anna's also saying there's layers of forgiveness too. You can't be, for example, here's another one. You have, I'm trying to figure out his name at the moment. Oh, I knew this was coming. Oh, I know. And it's there. It's there. Now it's stream of consciousness when I say this. If I do that, it's going to change things. Can't do that. The person that was imprisoned in South Africa. Write it down. Nelson Mandela, thank you so much, people. Sorry for, you know what? I'll tell you this. As a side, I've got 50 bazillion things in my mind that go through. And this show is never, ever scripted. So you want to talk about reality. This is serious reality check, people. All I know is the topic. From that point on, yes, you guys are awesome. Great minds think alike. So Nelson Mandela, he was imprisoned in South Africa for something he did not do. He was there for 27 years, I believe. 27 years he was imprisoned. Something ridiculous like that. It was either 17 or 27. The amount of fortitude and strength and the amount of emotional mindfulness that he had to take and reach to be able to forgive his country, his government, and to still achieve everything that he achieved. I have to say, I wish that I was able to meet that person, to meet Nelson Mandela before he passed. That was one of the people, and I'm sure you've probably heard this, when you are asked, who would you want to sit and talk to, living or dead? Whether they're living, dead, whichever. And Nelson Mandela is one of them. Leonardo da Vinci too, as well. There's a handful, I got to say. There's a 6-pack of people I'd want to sit and talk with. And I kind of view them as my contemporary. So figure 2016, and I'm thinking Leonardo da Vinci and Nelson Mandela and Gandhi and probably a few others, but a couple musicians too. But the thing is this, though, he had to really tap into his inner self and to say to his country that he loved, to say to his government that he respected until then, for him to say, I forgive you for imprisoning me for all that time. And now, 2016, his former government couldn't squelch that voice, couldn't snuff that flame. The power of his soul and his spirit surpassed the human experience. Now, if there's anybody that's a good example of forgiveness, that's one. That's a big one. That's huge, right? So now, if someone that has been oppressed, imprisoned, if they can go ahead and tap into that level of forgiveness to be able to still stick with their life purpose and move forward, wow. I think we all can tap into that a little bit, tap into that energy a bit. So looking at this, more than just the concept, look into your heart, look into your soul of what your experience have been. I'm sure that there is something there that's needed closure. Really take it out, put it on the table, because that may be the one thing that is limiting you in your present as well as your future. And for you to be the best person you could be, letting go of that, not forgetting. I'm not going to tell you to forget. Keep the lesson, but learn to forgive and move into the present to the person that you want to be now. Because once you do that, the person in the future is going to shine brightly. So we're going to just do the summary real quick here. Why is forgiveness important? Because it's holding you back. It's not easy to love someone after they've caused you damage, or it's hard to look back at an experience, whether it was emotional, whether it was spiritual, whether it was a business move, whatever it was. There's still damage and there's still cause and effect there. But to tap into that cause and effect and be able to tie into that forgiveness, owning up to what was yours and letting go, that's important. And once you get to that point of forgiveness, even just to let it go enough to gain closure, that could change everything. This is a game changer. This changes who you are. So from this moment forward, honestly, if you can forgive that person for hurting your feelings, or forgetting your birthday, or for not giving you the gift you want, or anything from as small as that to someone of hurting your feelings or disrupting your life in a huge way, it's going to be helpful to you. So I can tell you that it's actually in your best benefit. It's in your best interest for you to learn to forgive the person or the situation and to put healing there, to send good juju there, to move forward. Because once you get to the power of now, once you get to the power of this moment, then you can move forward. Then your future can change. But until you let it go, it's going to be a lot of the same. And I can guarantee you that. Don't have to be an intuitive to tell you this, because you know it to be true. So I hope that this was helpful. I hope that this serves you well. And I hope that you too can forgive and learn from these things that have happened in your life. Because in the grand scheme of things, you deserve to be a lot better off than you are this moment. We limit ourselves a lot of the time. So, that being said, as I say every week, I want to thank you all for spending time with me here in Insight with Moonshadow. A lot of what you do inspire me to share and to learn from all of you. So all of you inspire me to do this work. So if you feel guided to connect with me and support, please follow and subscribe to my social media. You can find that on phoenixrisinghealingarts.com as well as moonphoenixrising.com. And I look forward to spending time with you again. So as I say every week, be strong, be amazing, be you. See you soon.